This is Noise from the Cranium. My name is Doug, and in this episode, I'm going to take a look at a classic song I first heard during the psychedelic era of the late 1960s. The song is Hey Joe by Jimi Hendrix.
Hey Joe, where you going with that gun in your head?
I thought Hey Joe was going to be a simple addition to a show I was writing on murder ballads, but when I began researching the origins of Hey Joe, it started getting really interesting. As with many historical observations, there are many disputed facts and recollections in this tale, so be prepared to twist like Chubby Checker. The beginnings of Hey Joe appear to date back to the mid-1950s, when Neela Miller wrote a song called Baby Please Don't Go to Town.
Baby, what you gonna do in town? Baby, what you gonna do in town? I'm gonna sit at a bar with my feet tucked in, drinking all the beer and whiskey and gin, and looking at the young man always hanging round.
Miller was dating Billy Roberts in 1956 and claims that Roberts stole the song from her. Roberts kept the song structure and melody and rewrote the lyrics, possibly using Carl Smith's country hit from 1953 called Hey Joe as the impetus for the title.
Hey Joe, we'll be friends until the end, but this looks like the end, my friend. I gotta have that dolly for my own.
Carl Smith's Hey Joe is a tale of one guy stealing another guy's girl, thus ending the friendship. Rather than simply stealing his friend's girl, Robert seemed to have followed the basic story in the late 19th century traditional murder ballad called Little Sadie, where a man shoots his woman, runs away, but gets caught and put in jail for his crime.
I went out one night for to make a little round. I met little Sadie and I shot her down. I went back home, I got into bed with a 44 pistol under my hand.
Roberts added the reason for the shooting to his lyric, as it seems Joe is chasing his woman who ran off with another man. Also, instead of getting caught, he allows the culprit to flee to Mexico, thus avoiding the hangman's noose. Roberts applied for copyright to this song in 1962, while Miller did the same for her song 2 years later. Here is the first known recording of Hey Joe, taken from a home demo that Roberts recorded in either 1961 or 62.
Hey Joe, where you going with your money in your hand? I'm chasing my woman, she ran off with another man.
This is pretty close to the version we will come to know, although there are minor differences in the lyrics. He sings, Hey Joe, where you going with your money in your hand, instead of gun in your hand. And instead of saying he's going down to shoot his old lady, he says, I'm chasing my woman, she ran off with another man. Then in the next verse, I'm going downtown and buy me a 44. The original version also has Joe confessing to killing both his woman and her lover. At this point, the story takes a bizarre turn. Roberts frequently played Greenwich Village in New York with another musician known as Dino Valenti. When Valenti moved to San Francisco, he took Hey Joe with him, playing it around California and going so far as to claim he wrote the song. Roberts also relocated to San Francisco, joining a folk rock trio called the Driftwood Singers. Somewhere between Roberts recording his first demo and Roberts and Valenti moving to California, the 44 in the lyric became a Blue Steel 44. Valenti later went on to form Quicksilver Messenger Service and write the hippie anthem Get Together.
Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now.
Valenti had shared a houseboat with David Crosby, then guitarist with the Byrds. Crosby loved Valenti's version of Hey Joe and added it to the band's live repertoire. LA's Sunset Strip had recently become a hangout for the counterculture. The Byrds, Love, and the Leaves all played at clubs there. Hey Joe became a staple during the latter half of 1965, with versions of the song being played by all three bands. Love's guitarist Brian McLean, who used to be a roadie for the Byrds, got the song from Crosby and then taught it to the Leaves' lead singer John Beck. Crosby tried to get the Byrds to record the song, but Roger McGuinn refused, only relenting after Love and the Leaves had both recorded it, and only in order to assuage an irate Crosby.
Hey Joe, where you going with that money in your hand? Find my woman, she's running around with other man. Gotta go downtown, buy me Blue Steel 44.
Valenti got busted for drug possession and ended up in Folsom Prison. In order to pay his legal fees, he sold the rights to his song Get Together to the manager of the Kingston Trio for $100. On New Year's Day 1965, Roberts and the Driftwood Singers were playing Folsom Prison with Johnny Cash. Valenti, who was serving his jail sentence, was likely in the audience. He somehow met up with Roberts and, as the story goes, persuaded Roberts to transfer the rights to Hey Joe to him as a way to convince the parole board that he was a working musician. Apparently, it was that and the $100 he received for Get Together that helped spring Valenti from prison. Once out of prison, Valenti sold the song to Third Story Music, who copyrighted the song in Valenti's name. Later, when the song started getting covered by rock bands like The Leaves and Love, a friend of Billy Roberts alerted him to the fact that his song was being credited to Dino Valenti. Valenti eventually admitted that he didn't write the song, but simply picked it up from Roberts. The rights to the song were then transferred back to Roberts. The Leaves were the first rock band to record Hey Joe, having watched the Byrds play the song at Ciro's in LA. When the Leaves were getting ready to record the song, they went to their friends in the band Love and asked them for the words. At this point, the bands are all singing the version that Dino Valenti brought from New York, with the lyrics, "Where you going with that money in your hand?" and "I'm going downtown to buy a blue steel 44.
Well, I said, hey, Joe, where you going with all that money in your hand? Well, I'm going after my woman. She's been running around with some other man now. Well, I'm gonna go downtown. I'm gonna buy me some blue steel 44.
Love's guitarist Johnny Eccles, intending to play a trick on the Leaves, wrote an abbreviated version of the lyrics, leaving out the first verse with the reference to the blue steel 44 and the fact that Joe also kills her lover. I'd guess that he did that to provide some differentiation between their version of the song and the one that was about to be recorded. The Leaves used the basic musical arrangement from Love, slightly modified of course, and the rewritten lyrics written by Eccles.
Hey, Joe, where you going with that gun in your hand? I said, hey, Joe, where you going with that gun in your hand? I'm going out to find my woman now. She's been running around with some other man.
One of the slight modifications was a bridge that began with a bass guitar riff that later showed up in the Hendrix version. After the Leaves hit the top 40, the song became a garage rock classic and was covered extensively by numerous bands across America. Prior to Jimi Hendrix recording the song, bands were torn between the original Billy Roberts Dino Valenti lyrics as used by Love, Tim Rose, the Byrds, the Shadows of Night, and the Cryin' Shames, and the modified lyrics sung by the Leaves and used by bands such as the Safaris and the Standells. Since Crosby learned the song directly from Dino Valenti, the Byrds version can be considered as one of the original cover versions, even though it was actually recorded later. Love's version would also have a similar distinction, considering Love's guitarist Brian McLean's connection to Crosby. The band The Music Machine did the most interesting version, neither copying Love nor Tim Rose's version. Theirs is a unique slow take with severely modified lyrics, which provide an interesting alternative to the versions we are familiar with.
Hey Joe, now do you think you'll ever die? I don't believe in money, fortune, fame, all dirty lies.
Once Jimi Hendrix recorded the song, his version pretty much became the definitive version. So where did Hendrix get the song? Well, back in New York in 1966, folk singer Tim Rose began performing Hey Joe around town, including a gig at the Café Wah, where Hendrix was known to hang out. There's no indication that Rose saw or heard Billy Roberts when he played the song in Greenwich Village a few years earlier, but it is a distinct possibility. However, further muddying the murky ownership waters, Rose claimed that his version was inspired by a version he had heard as a child in Florida. When he released it as a single in 1966, calling it Hey Joe, You Shot Your Woman Down, he considered it as traditional rather than giving anyone else a songwriting credit. He indicated it was arranged and adapted by Tim Rose. Rose's version received a lot of airplay. On his album, the lyrics followed the Billy Roberts and Dino Valenti version, including the lines Money in Your Hand and Blue Steel 44, but it was taken at a slower pace musically and had a few 12-string guitar embellishments. The single was a shorter version of the song, omitting the first verse with the Blue Steel 44 reference.
Hey Joe, where you go with that gun in your hand? I'm gonna shoot my woman. I caught her with another man.
Jimi Hendrix, living in New York at the time, heard the Tim Rose 45 and added the song to his set list. According to Curtis Knight, who played with Hendrix in the mid-60s, Hendrix was also aware of the Leaves version, having purchased that 45 in a record store. In an interesting twist, Animals bassist Chaz Chandler had also heard Tim Rose's single and thought in the right hands it would be a great crossover folk rock song. Looking to retire from performing and becoming a manager, he saw Hendrix play at a club in New York, and seeing him do his own version of Hey Joe sealed the deal. Hendrix recorded the song in England, basically beefing up the version from Tim Rose that he had heard on the 45 and adding the bass riff that bassist Jim Pons played with the Leaves. He also modernized the lyrics, saying he was going down to shoot his old lady, not his woman, because he caught her messing around, not running around. He put in more hippie lingo from the day to make the song his own. It was released in December 1966 and went to number 6 on the UK charts. Interestingly enough, it was not a hit in the US, making the version by the Leaves the only version of Hey Joe to make it on the US Top 40 charts. There is no denying the song is a classic. The Leaves version is a garage rock staple, while the Hendrix version is a signpost to psychedelia. Tim Rose's version is a grittier take on it, and Billy Roberts and Neela Miller's are both deep cuts for the hardcore aficionado. Over the years, the song has been covered over 1,400 times by a wide range of artists, from Soft Cell to Robert Plant to ZZ Top to Cher. I'm going to leave you with the maestro himself, Jimi Hendrix. This has been Noise from the Cranium. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.
Hey,